What's up, Switches?
I'm Jennifer.
I'm Cicero.
And this is the Switching Lanes podcast.
Today's topic, domestic violence. It is your business.
Tennessee is ranked the 4th in the country for the rate at which men kill women in a domestic situation. In 2017, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation recorded 77,846 domestic violence cases. 70% of those cases were against women. It's an alarming number.
It is. And
it really is.
And I think about recently here where we've had these women come up missing. Mm-hmm. We've had these women killed. Mm-hmm. We've had, we still have this one young lady that's actually missing.
Still missing.
She's been missing since, July?
July, yeah.
And, of course, now the husband's being looked at, but initially, he wasn't.
Right.
But now he's being looked at, and the family is saying that there were issues of domestic violence, which is, honestly, usually the first thing that's thought about when a woman goes missing that's married. The first thing they do is look at the husband.
Definitely.
So, I don't understand why it took a minute to come to that conclusion. I guess they wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know.
Or maybe they just didn't have enough evidence to address him in that way. But yeah, it's odd that they went so long without being able to investigate him deeper on that level.
Right. But now they are, because they've ruled this young lady dead. And it amazes me because, this is not a legal statistic, but mine is 9 times out of 10, if a woman goes missing, she's married, it's that husband. Mm-hmm. She didn't just run away.
Right.
He's done something. And it's usually that you're starting to see it more. We used to see that on Lifetime movies,
Right.
If I can't have you, nobody can.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of fictional to us growing up. But being in the adult world, you see that that's very real. They say art imitates life. Mm-hmm. And it's a very real situation. And I think about, of course, like the National Domestic Violence movie, Enough.
Oh, that's a perfect example. Absolutely.
With Jennifer Lopez in it.
Right.
You think about how how it started, how he wined and dined her. Mm-hmm. He romanced her. He actually tricked her. But he romanced her. He wined and dined her. And it got to the point where eventually she, thinking that she was a strong woman, being a strong woman that she was, not having her biological family, but having to basically fend for herself, and then having these friends to come in that becomes her family.
Right.
He tricks her, and he plays on that. And then when he starts cheating, he of course he pulls her out of the workforce. He takes care of everything. He pays all the bills. She's living this great life, and even his mom alluded to the fact that this is
price that you pay for these luxuries.
This is the price that you pay for it, and she couldn't, in her mind, she still couldn't process that. Mm-hmm. But when she tried to get out, of course, he fought that. He fought it tooth and nail.
Absolutely.
And she had to go on the run. And it was crazy because he had so much clout that she couldn't even get away. Even when she fled across states.
Right.
She couldn't get away from him. Like, he knew everybody. He knew her resources.
Right.
He knew who she would run to. He knew who she would talk to. And when I say it's everybody's business, it is your business. I say that to say, watch who you. It's not to say everybody's abusive, but be careful.
Right.
If you start to see red flags, of course, and we're all guilty of avoiding them. Mm-hmm. But you have to be careful of how much you let this person in. Like somebody I'm dating, he's not going to know where everybody I know lives.
Well, and it's not necessarily that everybody is abusive. The thing is, you have to be willing to take precautions for yourself. It's not necessarily everybody is abusive. There's that gradual buildup that you mentioned, like in the movie. It's typical in those types of situations. You have that gradual buildup where they gain your trust.
Yeah.
They make sure you rely on them for pretty much everything before they strike.
They want
and now they have you where they need you. Right. They build this history with you, this rapport, and they gain control gradually as opposed to just trying to take everything all at once.
Right. And it's a mental control.
It is.
It turns into this mental control, and it's like once they get to that point, you feel helpless. Mm-hmm. You feel like it's not much you can do.
Mm-hmm. And you walking around asking yourself, did I cause this? Did I provoke him?
And
do I deserve it?
You let them in such a way that you can't get away from it.
Right. It's difficult. Very difficult.
You can't, because they know all your resources. They know all your fallback. They know all your safe places.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They know all your safe places. And I think a part of getting involved is if you see that sign in somebody, or even if they open up and talk to you about it, one, don't judge them.
Don't. Just be open to listening.
Be open to listen, and don't. You have some. I think the biggest thing is educating yourself, because I've seen, of course, in movies, TV shows, even true stories where women are asked, "Well, what did you do?" Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's a lack of education. That's a lack of.
Yeah, you have to be really careful. That's a tricky question,
right?
Because you are throwing the accountability back on that person,
right?
Back on that victim. So you really have to be careful with that question. You do.
And when you do that, they shut down.
They do.
And that's when they don't get the help. That's when they don't seek that help that they need. And that takes, to get help in those type of, any abusive situation, whether it's sexual, physical, whatever, it takes a major sense of courage, and it takes support.
Absolutely.
To be able to get the help that you need, because in most cases, these victims do blame themselves, and they feel like no one's going to listen to them.
Right. And that's why communication is key, even though they feel like no one is going to listen. When these people start opening up to you, you have to be willing to listen to everything that they're saying without judging them, so that they can speak freely, so that they can tell you everything it is that they need to say to you, so that they can come to you when they feel like they need you, because you can help them recognize the signs. Okay, maybe we can try this, or we need to do this to go ahead and get you out of this situation. If that person doesn't have anyone they can trust, or anyone they feel like they can come to and talk to without being judged, or without someone saying, hey, what did you do wrong to cause this situation? Guess what? They're going to stay in it longer, and there's a really good chance that they're not going to live to walk away from it.
Right. You have to be able to help point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
No resources. Be able to, and I mean, the resource, even if you never ever need these resources, it's helpful to know them.
Absolutely.
Because you never know where you've been in a situation where someone needs that resource. It may not even be someone close to you. You may be in a restaurant and see someone come in, and you help point them into that right direction. You may come across someone in the store. You may come across a woman on the street with her kids.
And you just recognize the signs.
You just recognize the signs.
You just see something
Or she may just be in a desperate situation, tell you, I need help, this is what's going on with me. And you say, you know what? I may be able to buy you or your kids a meal right now, but let me point you to the right direction. Let me tell you where the Family Safety Center is. And you can give her that information. The Family Safety Center, of course, here in Memphis, helps victims of domestic violence. So you may be able to point her to that.
Right.
And I mean, it's important to know all these things. Know about the Exchange Center. Know about the YWCA, so that you can show these women, okay, there are resources that are out there. Because a lot of times they don't know that. They don't know that they can get this help, and they don't know that there are people put in place to help you get away.
Specifically for these situations.
They can help with housing. They can help with job placement. They can help with food. They can help with counseling services. That's the biggest thing about it.
And the wonderful thing about the day and time that we live in right now, everybody has a smartphone. You don't know what to tell this person, whip your phone out and Google.
Yep.
You can always, Google domestic violence, Google, Shelby County safety from domestic violence, whatever, and you'll get the information you need. If the only thing you do is provide them with the National Domestic Violence Hotline, give them that. Give them something. Help them to feel like, okay, somebody cares. Maybe I should try to get out of this situation.
And another thing that's helpful about those resources, like the Family Safety Center, they're full of people who are going through that.
Mm-hmm.
They pair you with other women who are dealing with what you're dealing with. So you'll know that this is not just me. Because the biggest deal with that is a lot of women think it's just me and everybody's looking at me funny and I've done something.
That's why
No.
Peer
It's
support.
not just you.
Peer support is always a great
It's
tool.
everything.
It is.
Just like if you notice, when you see these shows and these movies and these stories where a woman's been raped and she's scared to say something.
Right.
But the moment she comes forward, 5 more victims come forward.
Right. Because you help them find their voice by finding your own courage to step up and speak. And if she can do it, I can do it. And maybe I can, go ahead and tell someone I need help. So it's a wonderful thing when we start to step forward and we realize how many other people we're actually helping in that process.
I think there's no greater support system than having someone who's gone through it versus someone who's on the outside looking in that can just tell you
definitely
this is what you should do.
Someone who can relate.
It's better to have someone that tell you this is what I did versus this is what you should do. Mm-hmm. Well, this is what I did to help me. This is what I did, and it was hard, but I got through it, and here I am now, and I'm helping you.
Right.
So you see that picture. You can see. Okay, I can get through this. She got
it's a restoration of hope. She's showing me she did it, right? Yeah. She did it, maybe I can, right?
You can see that end result. And so it's very important to recognize the signs, to get involved. I mean, getting involved doesn't necessarily mean stepping in and pushing him down when you see him hit her.
Right.
I mean, because I can think back to a couple of years ago when a young man was home from the military and he was in the IHOP and in Whitehaven, and the young lady was into it with her. Was that her husband? I can't remember if it was her husband. I'm not sure.
I think it was her boyfriend.
Or boyfriend. And the guy was, publicly abusing her.
Right.
And the guy stepped in to help, and he killed that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that young man, his death deadly to me wasn't in vain. He died doing the honorable thing.
Right.
I mean, ideally, you wouldn't want that to happen.
Right.
I hated that because he left a family.
Absolutely.
He left the family behind. He had a wife and kids, but he definitely did the right thing. He stepped in. Well, I won't say the right thing. He did the honorable thing.
Mm-hmm.
He stepped in to help that young lady when, of course, no one else would, and he lost his life ultimately. But I think that stepping in is what needs to happen. You don't necessarily have to step in and fight the person, because the person, of course, is going to already be combative.
Right.
But if you're out and you see something that looks fishy, suspicious, call somebody.
Call somebody, yeah. Step up, speak up. It's about everybody being willing to speak up. When you have people who like to do bad things, maybe you physically abusive or whatever else that it is that you do, when you know that these people, this is a tight community, they're going to step up, they're going to speak up, that person is less likely to clown. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're more likely to stay in line because they know these people are going to stick together. These people are going to speak up. Right. We need more people that are going to do that. And that's how we restore the security for our women, our community,
Right. I mean, you just, 9 times out of 10, if you're in a public place, the police is going to be nearby. Mm-hmm. The police will be nearby. I mean, IHOP has armed guards. Mm-hmm. Sometimes off-duty police officers, sometimes not. But the police will be nearby. I mean...
And if not, call. Just call and say, there's a male and a female fighting in the parking lot or whatever. Give them a description of the people in the car. Mm-hmm. If you can get the tag number, get the tag number. You just helped her. You may not have jumped in and pulled him off of her, but guess what? Right. You just helped her, and maybe now the police can go and check on her or come out to the IHOP wherever you are and make sure that she's okay. Maybe she is trying to get away at that moment, and maybe you were the key factor that helped her to do it and walk away with her life. You never know how far a situation is going to go, and sometimes all it takes is you speaking up, that one person that's willing to say something.
I can remember, and I'm going to see if I can find that video on it was a video on Facebook that circulated, and it was a real story. The lady went into a veterinarian's office. Mm-hmm. She had her dog. And do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Her and her boyfriend came in together.